So, what happens when the brokers start cutting corners and the drivers start paying the price? Well, folks, that's exactly what's unfolding right now as we speak, and it's headed straight for the steps of the Supreme Court. The case titled Montgomery versus Caribe Transport, it may sound like another courtroom headline, but this one's the real deal, because buried inside this case is a question that could rewrite how every load, every contract, and every mile of freight is handled on America's highways. It's about who's responsible when a broker hires a carrier that never should have been on the road and somebody doesn't make it home. We're going to break down how we got here. And we're going to talk about who's hiding behind the fine print and what this could mean for you. The man or the woman actually turning the wheels of this economy. Because when the truth drives the load and we all arrive safely, but the greed takes the wheel and nobody gets home on time. So buckle up, my friends, grab that coffee, tighten up your seatbelt, and stay tuned, because tonight we're pulling back the curtain on a system that's been gaming you for decades. And let's see if we can call game over.
Answer to that question is yes, trucking is worth it.
Greetings, truck lovers and truth seekers from the United States of Truckin. BossMan here with another headlines update. Your channel for news, opinion, and all things trucking. Critical thinking, fueled by faith, sanctioned by God, and powered by you, the collaborative think tank for advanced trucking journalism. By the way, if you believe in truckers making noise and deserving the truth, join us here at the TIB Nation. Subscribe today. Your membership and support keeps this channel alive and helps us deliver the needed message. That message: we can make trucking great again. You know, for decades, shady brokers have hidden behind contracts, cutting corners, dodging responsibility, and leaving good drivers to foot the bill when things go sideways. And now, folks, the Supreme Court of the United States, they're finally stepping in and they're making their points known, and they're deciding our future. Such as the case in Montgomery versus Caribe Transport. This isn't just some, quote, courtroom curiosity. This is about accountability and about who answers when those corners get cut. Because here's the moral truth. When the link breaks, as in my thumbnail in this example, the whole chain fails. And right now, that chain is our entire freight system. So what is it about? Simple. Whether a broker who hires a reckless carrier can hide behind paperwork when disaster hits. Sounds simple, right? But it's about to shake every dispatch board in America. Now, before I go any further, let me make something crystal clear. Nothing you hear on this show tonight should ever be taken as legal advice. I'm a news commenter. I'm an opinion guy. I'm not your attorney. Everything we talk about here is for informational purposes only. And it's a conversation, one that we need to have. And it's a chance to shine a light on issues that matter in trucking. So if you've got a legal question about your business, your insurance, and anything regarding your business and your contract, get with a qualified professional who can review your circumstance. Journalism is what we do here. Straight talk and accountability, not legal counsel. So I just wanted to make that clear. So here's how they've been placing it. Brokers collect the freight, they take the cut, and they pass the risk. They claim we just, quote, arrange transportation. But when that load flips, I mean, literally, an accident happens, or when the driver passes on or gets into serious trouble, and the family associated with said trouble loses everything, suddenly nobody arranged anything. High risk, low cost carriers, rushed vetting, no compliance, no follow ups. All of that is a recipe for disaster written in fine print. And the problem is the good guys, people like you and me, well, we're the ones that end up paying the premium. Literally, your insurance spikes because nobody else's shortcut becomes your statistic. Everybody else's shortcut becomes your statistic. Let me word it right. Drivers just don't pay with money. They pay with their futures. Let me lay out some examples here. Here's the cold truth, because brokers who hire companies like, for example, Monique Trucking, with drivers that are unlicensed, trucks without ELDs, zero safety plan in place. They're playing Russian roulette with lives. To be more specific, a California-based company, Monique Truckin, was ordered to shut down by the FMCSA after a multi-vehicle crash killed one person. Investigators later found that the carrier had numerous violations, hiring drivers without valid CDLs, failing to equip truckers with ELDs, a poor vehicle maintenance record, and no safety management plan. Another example we all well know of, the I-20 crash. The broker completely ignored warnings about that carrier. Backdated documents, assigned a solo driver on a long-distance run, and altered records to hide it. These are the shortcuts that end in headline tragedy. A collision on Interstate 20 near Dallas, we all know about, left 5 people without a life. The lawsuit against the carrier, Hope Trans, we all know about, and the broker, Covenant Logistics, alleged they ignored multiple safety warnings. Assigned a solo driver when team drivers were required on such long runs. Backdating bills and ablating in an effort to skirt the required rest breaks and put drivers in a situation they should not have been there. Former drivers even came out and claimed that the broker was warned that the carrier was already violating safety protocols and made such publicly known on a very well-known WFAA broadcast we've all seen. And here's already a court in the Sixth Circuit also getting their 2 cents in, saying that brokers can be on the hook for choosing poor carriers. Such courts have said they're already holding brokers accountable in real cases for using carriers with poor safety records. I cite this in a case of Cox versus TQL. The Sixth Circuit recently ruled that a broker may be held liable under state law for hiring an unsafe motor carrier, holding that negligent hiring claims fall under the FAA's reported safety exception, which is the Authorization Act of 1994. And don't let the aviation part fool you. It doesn't just cover airplanes. That Aviation Act of 1994, when passed, said it also bundled in a huge section that included trucking, freight, and logistics. So, having said all this, let me now turn the questions to you watching. When a broker hires a carrier without checking their safety record, and that carrier turns out being like Hope, like Monique, or, like we all say, causes a tragedy, who's really behind the wheel? Who do you think is responsible for what unfolds? Is it the driver or is it that broker? What say you in the audience? Let me see what your thoughts are, and I'll get on to mine as we unfold this. I want to say hello to one guy, James. What's going on? Glad you could make it. Glad you're part of the discussion today. Got a few watching right now, so welcome to all of you. Take a moment, go down below, like this broadcast. Certainly be interested in your opinion. Got a trucker that's had quite a bit of experience with us today, the grumpy old trucker. So I want to welcome you here. Welcome to the show, Grumpy. So let me ask you something. When a broker hires a carrier without actually checking their safety record, what say you? Is it the person driving the load, or is it the broker that actually tenders the load? What's your thoughts?
I think it should be both of them.
And why do you say both and not just one?
Well, the driver shouldn't have taken it, and the broker shouldn't be forcing him to take it.
Okay. Let's take, first of all, I agree with what you're saying. Let's take Hope Trans, that circumstance all of us know about, all right? Here was a driver that obviously knew when he took the load, he had more miles to transport the load than was capable for doing in one safe, one shift, 11-hour shift. Whereas in the investigation, we also found out former drivers came out and said they were known for this. All right. That's just drivers of Hope Trans. Let's not talk about the broker now. They put this carrier in this situation and they had access to the information that said they were unsafe. So what do you think in a situation like that? I personally am of the mindset that, first of all, Hope Trans didn't even need to be on the road. And newsflash, last I checked, they're still carrying loads. I have not yet heard any press that says they've been shut down. So, yeah.
No, they can do like all these other ones and just get a new number and start all over again. So,
yeah.
That's the problem. That's one of the problems we have.
Well, yeah, that's one of the major problems, but I don't think it's going to take a court case to figure that one out, unfortunately. There's other things associated with that. So what's the solution? I don't know. Look back on some previous videos. I think I pretty much laid out what I think a solution is. The solution, well, that's a whole nother video and a whole nother live show. I mean, I get people want to operate at an efficiency level, and I get that they want to do their part to make as much profit as possible and spend as little as possible. That is understandable. That is business 101. You want to get as much money in and as least spent. I get all that. Everybody wants to save a buck. But at the end of the day, when you operate like Monique and when you operate like Hope, what's the cost? When a broker picks the lowest bidder and that load turns into tragedy, where's the line between cutting costs and cutting corners? You yourself, Grumpy, you've worked for carriers. Now, looking back, I'm never going to say anything bad about the carriers you've worked for. But retrospectively, you've questioned some of the practices that were at play. How does that relate to the question I just asked? Think about that for a second. What does that make you think of?
Well, I mean, be kind of like the factor of wanting to make money. And I mean, they want to make money. I know everybody wants to make money because that's how we pay our bills. But when it when it takes safety into the matter, then that's not a good thing at all. And
No.
with this past company that I was with, safety was a big pet peeve of mine, and then I was doing my best to bring that around so that whenever we would haul loads, at least the trailers would be safe. So I mean, cutting corners get you nowhere, and that's what it sounds like this company's done quite a few times, is cut corners.
You and I have both been involved in conversations where we've actually talked about some of the things you personally dealt with. And one of the things I remember saying to you was it made no sense to me that a carrier as big as the one you worked for, and mention no names, keep the names out, but as big as they were and as known as they were to come down on you for small things, it made no sense to me that they would cut some of the corners that they did.
No,
Couple of circumstances, you were sitting there right in front of a mechanic's bay, and
yeah,
something as simple as a low cost replacement part would have made sense. But instead, they routed you back to the terminal and made their
yep.
mechanic on site do it. That was a couple of hours worth of travel time where you could have been cited and other things could have happened. So that's
Well, not to
why I
mention,
brought that up. And what's
not
your
to
thoughts
mention,
there?
they had a trailer one time that I basically put deemed out of service because of the problems it had, and they went and had another driver come swap me, and they have that driver bring that loaded trailer down there
Right. Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
refused to. And
Yeah.
see, that's wrong too.
It is. It is. And when it comes
Not to
down
mention
to
it's
it,
illegal.
yep. And when it comes down to it, the question I have before us about joining our conversation tonight. Anybody watching, if you'd like to answer this question, I'd be certainly interested in your thoughts. Hit the like button and certainly type a comment or answer the question. After everything you've seen, not only on this live show, but in your experience driving truck, do you really trust the system to protect honest people anymore? Because it seems to me that we've reached a point where it looks like not only corporate media, but those in agencies capable of making decisions, they're out to protect the bad actors. So, what do you think, Grumpy? Do you think it's designed wrong, or I mean, the bottom line is, do
It's
you
not
trust the
properly
system to protect
enforced.
honest drivers?
That's the problem.
Mhm.
It's not properly enforced. Even with all these scale houses we have all over, they're not looking out for certain things, and they're allowing certain things to go on through. And
Mhm.
not to say I can't prove this, no, but I will say it. I think slip of the hand of something green to somebody at these places also helps. Sad,
Right.
but I guarantee it's
Yep.
going on. And like I said, I
Yep.
can't back it up and prove it, but I've heard rumors. You know what I mean?
Dorothy, I'm glad you could join the conversation. She says, not sure why they allow them to get new numbers. Has to be a way to track them. I can tell you, I've put out previous videos and I am certainly gearing up to do more, but that practice by itself can be easily stopped, I believe. Can be easily stopped. And I think as of this month, it will be far easier because one of the things coming up this month is that they're doing away with the MC number system and they're redesigning it to put um, everybody's information behind the DOT number system. So that by itself is a good step, but I think they need to back that up and they need to back it up with a more centralized method of tracking information. Because I think there's still too many hands in the pot when it comes to a way to track our information. Case in point is all the people out there committing fraud. You know, um, now that we're taking MC numbers out of the equation, I mean, there's too many people with access to the DOT numbers and the information around that. So I think they need to tighten that up, and they certainly need to do more to make it, to Dorothy's point, less easy to get new numbers. Um, so that is a conversation I think I would like to entertain far above and beyond this live. If you have any thoughts in the audience, certainly leave that with me at an email here at that's trucking news at outlook.com. That's trucking news at outlook.com. I would certainly love to hear your thoughts and what you think of the system as it exists right now. Because I'll tell you something, we need a lot of work, and we have a lot of work ahead of us, by all means. Fake trucking in the house. Hard to track anything with a government agency that's in control. Government is closed. Yeah, tell me about it. That does not make things any easier by a long shot. And let me see if you're not only there, but dude, I sent you a link. If you want to join the conversation, I welcome it. So look forward
Yes,
to hearing
please do
your thought.
if you
Yeah, your
can.
thoughts there too. Soul comes in, say, yeah, been interested in a government that can close. I don't make it, this show wasn't designed to discuss the merits or demerits of a government closure, but I don't get how a clean CR can lead to 10 days. Now we're on what, 10 days, government shutdown. Why don't we put off that which we can put off and solve it in the right forum? Why people are putting up, and I'm saying this not just for the D's, I'm seeing this for the R's too. Why not just put aside all that we need to, reopen the government and solve these problems rather than put this face and this crap and this press pool on? But that's all I'm going to say on this matter, because this is about trucking and the Supreme Court, not a government shutdown. So that's where I'm going to leave that one. Now, I'm going to move on to why the Supreme Court is stepping in. And I want to talk about what we're going to get out of this. So bear with me, folks, because we're moving on, okay? We are moving on to leave you guys with the heart of the debate. Now, here's where the gavel hits the grease, as it were. SCOTUS is deciding whether or not states can actually sue brokers for negligent carrier selection, or whether federal law shields them from completely being under preemption. That's a key term here. That's Washington's word for we don't want to deal with your lawsuits. But here's the safety exception. The one thin line that could let justice through. It says states can regulate safety when it comes to motor vehicles. The question is, does a broker choosing an unsafe carrier count as a safety issue? Very important thing. Look, if the court rules for preemption, and that's what this whole Montgomery versus Caribe is all about, brokers can walk clean. No accountability, no reform. Same system continues forward, no changes. If the court rules for the drivers, suddenly every broker in America has to clean up its act. It has to vet carriers, to check compliance, check boxes, and or face the music. So I ask you, is accountability a threat to profit? Or is the foundation to integrity? Let me know, because this decision could actually rewrite the rule book. Because up to now, we've got the Hope Trans of the world. Accident, 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 accident. Safety scores going through the freaking roof, and no one's shutting them down. A Supreme Court case like this could change that. It would mean we could take those that exhibit signs that they're unsafe off the road. Where up to now, we haven't been able to do that, because it's a difference of preemption versus vetting the carriers, checking compliance, and expecting everybody to be accountable. So let's be real. This fight isn't about safety and paperwork. It's about greed. It's about the people who have turned trucking into a spreadsheet. Brokers, on one hand, they talk efficiency. Drivers, we live reality. One runs numbers. They think of profitability versus expense. The other runs miles. We run reality, and we understand, and I say this because I'm in this fight with you guys, we understand that every decision made somewhere else affects our ability to do what we do. And until the scales between balance and justice get figured out, We are the ones that are going to stay jackknifed on the shoulder. And faith tells us truth always wins the long haul. Accountability isn't punishment, it's protection. Because if you build your business on shortcuts, you're bound to wind up in the ditch. Key facts from this worth dropping, and this is how I want to lay it out, and then I'm going to lead the discussion up to everybody in the audience. Montgomery versus Caribe. Here's what we're talking about. You hear broker demanded reporting, tracking updates. That's what they're going to throw out. In Montgomery, the court said that the kind of passive monitoring doesn't count as control. What's the difference between watching a driver versus telling him exactly how to drive? C.H. Robinson put in a clause in this court case you're going to hear a lot about too. Rates contingent on performance. But the court said that's not control. It's a carrot and a stick. But the question is, when does incentive become coercion? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear that. That's a conversation also worth continuing. This is an isolated case. As courts are torn. One says, yes, you can sue a broker. Another says no. That's why the Supreme Court's had to step in. This decision will decide who's protected. Brokers or drivers. It's going to be across all circuits, not just one. Look at what the contract said. Exclusive control rests with the carrier. I kind of see that. That's the language many brokers hide behind. Just because it's written doesn't make it real. They hide behind it because they want to indemnify themselves from anything that goes wrong. Understood. But I ask you in the audience, who's more important? The broker or the carrier? Because as I was writing all this and I was putting all these notes down, something occurred to me. There's one universal truth that every broker and every carrier has to deal with. And the simple question is, who's the customer? A lot of us in the business for a short time think our customer, if we're the carrier, they think our customer is the broker because we deal with so many of them. It's not. Our customer is the shipper. A lot of us in experience also think the broker is just a tool. It is, but from the broker's perspective, who's the customer? It's not the carrier. The brokers see the carrier as a tool. So again, from the broker's perspective, who's the customer? The shipper. So let me know in the comments below how you think. If you disagree, let me know. Looking at our audience and our panel, we have an extra head in here. So let me bring somebody up live in this conversation. Fate Truckin in the house. Welcome to the show, my friend. Come on, if you'll actually cooperate with me. There he is.
What up?
My technology is a little slow. Forgive me. So, did I trigger thee tonight?
Well, shippers aren't always your customer. Like, that's number one.
Well,
America.
I mean, in terms of this court case, I'm trying to word it so everybody understands where I'm coming from. So I kind of stick on that. Yes, where a carrier is concerned, they have to be your customer. Cite your case.
No, they don't. Americold isn't your customer. Americold is holding your customer's freight. Americold is a 3PL.
Right.
They are a warehouse. So
Right.
if your customer is Leanne Chin and all their frozen product is at Americold
Right.
is not your customer.
Right.
They are the 3PL company that's holding your customer's product.
The question I have is, how often does that situation exist? It's not always
You
like
haul
that.
reefer freight, right?
Well, yeah, you
99% of your freight is that way.
Okay. And again, it goes to the statement I made at the start of this, where 99% of people new to an industry, and I'll include myself in this, okay? I'm new to reefer. No, nobody's strange to that. Everybody watching my channel knows that. But in trucking overall, you've got to look at what people look at and how they see it.
Here's
You
a
have a
great
customer, and you got to look out for them. Go ahead.
Here's a great example of that. And I'm not trying to
Mhm.
like be an a-hole or anything here.
No, 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 no. You're doing
We
good. You're
we
doing good.
haul a lot of the same style freight, right?
Mhm. Yes.
There's one place that we pick up, or like there's a couple of places in the Midwest that we pick up and then we deliver down to the Southeast, right?
Right.
The customer is down in the Southeast.
Mhm.
That's the customer,
Right.
not the shipper where we pick up from.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm
So,
saying?
right, right, right. And I understand and I agree because, yeah, in the circumstance you're talking about, I'm not going to name names, but I understand what you're saying. But it more or less goes to prove the point that I'm trying to make, which is the broker is not our customer. That's the overall point. We seem to operate on this thing like we can't survive without brokers, but there are a lot of carriers
Well,
out there that can, and that whole broker customer relationship versus the carrier customer relationship, I think is clearly misjudged in a lot of eyes. And that's kind of one of the points I was trying to drill home.
well,
And
I
I've
would
got a reason for that. I've got a reason for this, and stick with me on this, because the problem we have, and the reason I think this whole Supreme Court case is unfolding the way it is, Fate, if you'll indulge me here, is because we have a number of larger companies or larger entities, brokers, if you will, that are simply not doing the job they should. And that is that they're putting in place a lot of people like you and me that shouldn't be doing the job. Like, for example, Hope Trans, like Monique, like others that we've seen. They're making people like you and me look bad. So that's where the Supreme Court case comes in. How do we do this? How do we actually enforce the rules that we should, regardless of your government shutdown point, as comical as it was and as pathetic as it is? How do we enforce these standards and get these people that don't need to be behind the wheel, making us suffer the
well,
consequences without hurting
that's
people like you and I?
that's not our responsibility.
No, it's not. But
I'm not trying to take like a cop out here, but let me kind of hit on a couple of points you said.
sure, go ahead.
Brokers are 100% needed in this industry.
Don't dispute that.
Don't think for a minute there's a reason why trucking isn't the way it was even when I started in 1999, right?
Yep,
It's because
exactly.
carriers have ruined those relationships with
Hmm.
set customers, right? And also the supply chain has grown to a level that a lot of I mean, that's why there's so many trucking companies is not just a select few can handle all the freight that's being moved. So
True.
it's easier for the customers, shippers, however you want to phrase them, to
Hmm.
go through a company that does basically vet, quote, vet carriers and give
Yep.
them the loads. Um,
Right.
I do think carriers and shippers should be held accountable when there's horrific accidents. They
Such as
knowingly,
such as the Moniques and the Hopes
yeah,
that we're
yeah,
talking. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yep.
do think the brokers need to be held accountable. I think the shippers need to be held accountable. I think everybody that has their hand on that load needs to be held accountable,
Right.
including the driver and the company and things like that.
Yeah. Because, and I'm going to get to a few comments here as we go forward. Because I mean, think about it. For the guys like you and me, Fate. I mean, just entertaining a discussion here, and I'm going to bring Grumpy back up because he's been backstage the whole time. So let's have this be a threefold conversation. Think about it. You and I, and Grumpy, you to an extent too. We're getting our premiums jacked. We're getting rules put on us. We're being made to suffer consequences because of the actions of a few, as you pointed out a minute ago. And you ask any small business guy like you and me and others in the audience, chime in as well. Why are my premiums climbing when I've had zero claims? The answer is simple. Somebody else has dropped the ball. Somebody else has been negligent. Somebody else has been cutting corners. And someone else is getting you back to a corner that you really don't need to be in. So the question that I'm entertaining and the reason for the live show is, where do we draw the line?
Well,
what needs to happen?
Sorry if I'm not on the same wavelength as you.
Stop apologizing. God,
well,
no.
like it's not 100% like the non-domicile and the immigrant truckers. Let's be clear about that. It's not.
This live show wasn't even about that.
It's probably. I mean, I guess I need to look at statistics of accidents, which I love numbers, and I could like dive into this.
True.
I don't know if more people with CDLs like you and me get in accidents, or more people that have, English proficiency problems get into accidents. I don't know the numbers. But yeah, I mean, insurance for everything changes when, you have an industry that pays out as much as they do to claims, to lawsuits, to,
right.
A Walmart driver, that, I know it's years ago, but Tracy Morgan, what was that? $45 million or whatever. Like, of course your interest rates, premiums are going to be jacked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's business. And I'm not trying to.
No.
Yes, it affects me. Yes, it sucks, but it's also things change.
I bring in all perspectives, and I welcome everything you say, because you know what? Every opinion is worth listening to and hearing. Because I mean, honestly, you talk me in a lot of times into sense where I don't see it. So, I mean, Grumpy, let me ask you something. If you notice every single time you turn around, the same person making the same mistake and nothing's done, does it lead you to wonder, where is that line? Such as in what we've mentioned earlier before. Think about it. The amount of problems you ran into with your former carrier and the amount of times that you thought they should have taken other actions than they did. That kind of brings you back to it. What will make people actually stand on that line and say enough's enough?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean,
yeah,
it's been going on for years, to be honest with you. So it's just bringing it to a point of attention. So someone like myself, boasting it out about that company or something would be about the only way to do it. But then again, if they got bigger and badder lawyers, you can be in trouble for doing that. So it's kind of a not in a hard place there.
Somebody's making a comment. So you're anti-broker. I'm wondering if Noah guy's asking that of him or of me. I don't know really where that came in. That was a recent comment.
I'm not anti-broker.
Nor am I. I've never been anti-broker. Our country's stronger with less government. That's very true and very.
Sounds like a strong libertarian there. Welcome.
Yeah, I was just going to go
I support you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that. And no, nobody here is, I mean, we're all truckers. We need brokers, as Fate pointed out a short time ago. But think about it. This is kind of personal to me, because every time a broker picks cheap over safe, kind of puts a price tag on us.
But we don't
We
know if
suffer
that's
the
what's
consequences.
happening. Let's be
Well,
clear. Listen,
do we?
listen, listen,
Do
listen.
we? What
No,
makes you
because
say that? Hey, I'm
there's
interested.
lots of brokers that won't, you've heard of highway, you've heard of the things that like
And I've heard
carriers
other
have to
truckers.
go through to get
To your point,
approval.
I will give you credit for that. To your point, I have heard other YouTubers talk, other trucking YouTubers, mind you, talk about the fact that they can only use certain brokers because of that. So I agree. You're right.
And
And you
by
know who I'm
no
talking
means
about.
am I. Let me be clear to your viewers.
Mhm.
By no means am I saying trucking is in a good place. Yeah, I don't feel like it is. Right,
No.
and I've been doing this for 26 years. Um, I think right now there is light being shined on the industry to a lot of the things that we're discussing today.
Mhm.
Whether that's broker transparency, broker responsibility, which I don't support broker transparency, but let's just say that, and then all the stuff going on
Thank
with
you, Dorothy.
CDLs.
Thank you to
You know,
Dorothy for that comment. And that is what this is all about. Not to interrupt you, Faith. That is what this is all about. That's why I bring these shows up. It's a debate. I may not be right. I may not be intellectually the biggest winning argument on the block, but we're having a conversation we need to have. Because you know what? Somebody's going to learn something from this. I mean, exactly the point he's making just a second ago. I mean, I see brokers in a different light. And the way I look at it is the longer we sit back and tolerate loose decision making and choosing, like I said earlier, cheap over safe, I feel like it's actually just accepting business as normal. If I don't actually bring a discussion forward where we actually entertain the idea, well, how can we make things better? How can we make trucking great again? What's going to happen if I don't? What difference can one person make? You know, in the case we're talking about with Hope Trans, what will it take to actually make situations like that less likely to happen? What do you think? Fate? What do you think? I mean, do we go down the road of giving the brokers more crap, or is it our job? Do we give ourselves more scrutiny? Who gets the
listen,
who get
there's
yeah, who gets that?
we're already federally regulated.
We
If
are.
we, if the agencies responsible for enforcing the regulations did
Mhm,
their job,
mhm.
we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. And it's that simple. Um, I am I am a big
Interesting is
believer that, go ahead.
interesting the fella just pointed out. Asked you if you're anti-broker, and now he puts down 85% of all semi-truck involved accidents are the fault of the personal vehicle, according to the DOT. I
I don't know if I
don't.
agree with that.
I was going to say I don't know if that number is
But
quite
but
accurate,
I don't
but I
have
get the point he's making. I get
this
the point he's
person looked it up, so I can't argue with
making. Yeah,
them because
yeah.
I don't have my phone. I mean,
I get the overall. I get the overall point he's making. I mean,
85% of
yes,
all semi truck
personal
involved
vehicles
accidents.
are a majority of the cause. So that I will cop to that. You're right. It is a problem. But that falls back to an earlier conversation I've had on many lives where training is the answer. I mean, not just semi truck drivers, but regular cars. We need more awareness of how we act, how we interact with people, and what our job is. I mean, you don't have to be a CDL driver to know. Don't take 500 feet to stop a 70-mile-an-hour, 80,000-pound rig. You cannot
But
do
how
it.
many drivers do you see doing that?
Exactly. Thank you for completing my
Let's
point
be
for me.
clear. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
How many guys do you see where it says trucks left lane through a construction zone and 55 miles an hour, and you got FedEx, UPS, ABF, RLS, all these
Yeah.
other trucking companies just
Three
flying
letter
by you,
companies. Yep, yep, yep.
LTL carriers,
Mhm.
bull haulers, not to throw Thumper under the bus, but let's be
Throw him under the
honest.
bus. He chose not to be here, little sucker. Not like I didn't tell him to. He could be here to defend himself. That's all I'm gonna say. Huh?
I think we are getting to the point where enough is enough
Yeah.
as a society, and at the legislative level. I think people are starting to look at
All right.
things in a different way.
Let me turn the page here because this comment down below. If you heard the way I opened this show, okay, you'll understand that I totally disagree with your statement. Okay. No one on this panel, especially the guy in the middle, who, as you pointed out in an earlier comment, isn't on screen, he's contributing to the show and he's got an audio and he's got an opinion. So, to every degree, I'm going to give him the floor as much as I can. But none of us are experts. None of us are. We are opening a platform where you, the
Well,
people,
wait a minute.
are able to contribute to an overall platform and become
What
able to help making trucking great again. I don't know
what
that
do
we
you
have to
consider
be
an expert?
experts. I was gonna say, I don't think we have to be experts to be up here talking about this. We
No,
can be
no, but
truckers.
what I'm asking that gentleman, what does he consider an expert? I would
And
consider myself an expert in in not only my business but in trucking.
okay,
I
I
mean,
get
I,
I get
I
where you're
have
coming from.
26 years of experience in this industry
Okay.
with a clean driving record. I
Grumpy, what
have been a
grump,
trainer.
Grumpy, what do you feel confident admitting that you're good enough at to be worth giving a contribution to this show? What would make you even close to an expert, in your opinion?
Well, just like fate there, he's got 26, I've got 25 years out here. So I
Hmm.
mean, we've seen a lot, we've done a lot,
Hmm.
and we see a lot of changes happening constantly. And we either grow with it and change with it, or
Hmm.
we get behind. And if you get left behind in an industry like we're in, well, you might as well just hang your license up on the wall, you know.
And I'm going to take that statement as a small step further. First of all, I appreciate every single person watching this show. I appreciate every single comment in question. But let me wrap this whole entire point three of us have just so eloquently made by saying I've been in transportation 3.5 decades. Now, with that three
Well,
and a
and
half
I want
decades, it's not been in trucking. I've been in it only 15
I
years.
w- I want to make something clear too to this gentleman. I don't consider myself an expert. I'm asking you what you deem an expert in. I'm my financial planner. I deem an expert in financial planning.
Yeah.
I have more time in the industry that I make all the money in than he does as a financial expert. But
Okay.
I
I think we
consider him
just
an expert.
I think we just got some intel right there. It's just bull haulers are outlaws by nature. I think we've dealt with this one before. Let me conclude my statement from earlier by just saying simply this. No one person who's even an expert is an expert, truly. They are well versed, they're knowledgeable, and they offer a professional insight. But I don't believe there's an expert in any certain field by nature of the fact that the word expert says you know it all. No one ever can honestly, confidently say they know it all. Because the moment you know it all, what more is there to do? So by that, I will never say I'm
Guy.
an expert. I will always say I'm a guy in learning. I will always defer to people that know more than I do. But he's all about the bull haulers. So that's all we can devise from that.
I mean, dude, I grew up I cut my teeth in trucking before ELDs. I would make an argument most truckers are outlaws by nature. There's a
You know
reason
what the
why
big
we do this. There's a reason why we thrive
well,
in isolation. There's
yeah,
a
right?
reason why our minds are the way they are because we're
Yes,
freaking
sir.
outlaws. I
Yeah.
mean,
You
honestly,
don't have to be a bull hauler to be an outlaw.
no, no.
Very true.
Those black
I
boxes disconnect.
I almost have to wonder, is Noah is that Thumper in disguise? Is he trying to be slick? I don't know, wild thought anyway.
It's probably Bo.
You never know, right? I'm being funny,
Bo
you know me.
evolved.
It's probably not. I'm probably pissing the guy off, but Seriously,
I don't think you're
I
pissing
don't
them
ever
off.
claim to be an expert, nor will I profess that anybody on this panel is. But I will say this: any story that I think is worth talking about, I will bring on this channel. And to bring something else up, I'm going to bring Frontlines back. I've been holding off on it simply because I just haven't had enough material to put on, nor enough time to do it because I've been busy, as fate can attest. It's a very busy life we lead as a reefer guy. So yeah, I will do my part to bring it back. I enjoy it. I think it definitely helps the industry. And I'm going to leave this segment with one last question. You ever notice
We're
that in
done
trucking?
already?
No, we're not even close, but we're getting there. Don't rush it, Fate. Good Lord. You ever notice that in trucking, the guy doing it right is the one who pays the most? The safe driver gets higher premiums, while the broker who cuts the corners gets the higher profit margins. So the question I got to ask is, has our system been built to reward greed over integrity? What say you? What you think, Fate?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Why don't you ask an expert?
Somebody like Noah, maybe?
No,
Not giving you
listen.
a hard time. He says the
You
experience makes you
you
an expert
you
for sure. Thank you. I appreciate that, Noah. I really
you
do.
just brought, or you've mentioned something a couple of times about a broker, right?
Right.
Here's the thing. Like, you brought up that broker that was being sued, Covenant or whatever, right? Covenant's also a trucking company, that has a brokerage.
Right.
I can tell you that I would never haul for Covenant.
Right.
There's brokers that I don't work with
Hmm.
if I'm running spot market freight, because they do cut corners and they're cheap, and they won't live up to the things that are in their contract. You know what I
Right.
mean? They
Right.
won't pay the right detention rate. They won't do things, so I don't work with them. And I think a lot of us, uh, you know, I think a lot of us do that. But if more people did that and didn't always consistently need to, uh, I don't want to say this because I'll get backlash, but like, we have the power not to haul their freight. You have the power not to haul their freight.
Everybody does. Yeah. Thank you for the kind words, both in terms of what you first said and that as well. I appreciate that.
Who said
Lance,
something nice?
outlaw here. I never do a breakdown test at a truck stop. Good to know. Good to know.
I wonder if that dude knows me, because I've done that. It's your
Maybe
job,
he's seen a
man.
few. Maybe he's
Yeah,
seen a few of your videos. Who knows?
yeah.
Well, listen, I'm not going to end the debate here. I'm going to ask that we continue doing this. This show is typically a little over an hour long, and we've talked about and covered a lot here. So let me ask you, if you're interested in what we're talking about here tonight, do me a favor, go down below. You don't have to do any miracles. Just do one thing simple, and that's like the program. Send YouTube the message that what I'm doing works for you. And if you do, if you hit that like button, it'll certainly help this channel grow and the overall message we're carrying forth become louder. And that is, we can make trucking great again. It's not necessarily by my opinion, nor these two gentlemen sitting here to my right, but all of us together can get the job done. So let me close out by saying one simple thing to you guys, and that is, we together can make a difference. Here's the turning point. The question isn't just what the Supreme Court decides in this news article I'm talking about. By the way, it'll be linked below. But make no mistake, whichever way this goes, our world changes. If the SCOTUS rules for liability, brokers across America will finally have to look in the mirror, and they'll finally have the decision make. No more hiding, no more pretending. It's simply, the message will be clear. Accountability isn't optional. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. Whether they're right, whether they're wrong, it's all about making sure that the people who do the job are accountable. The Hope Transits, the regular carriers, those brokers that are hiring those carriers, everybody has their part to play. Now, if the court rules against liability, if they say no brokers can be sued, well, then that makes things a little bit more difficult. That means more risky carriers are still able to run more unsafe loads and more problems that wind up in Supreme Court situations. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with the mission that we've had since day one of this show. Justice catching up to commerce. Because every one of us out here knows when the race to the bottom starts, it's always the man like you and me who takes the hit. Now, it's time we start actually scoring what's going on. The same way we score ourselves. Every time we pull a load, we're graded on timeliness. We're graded on how we communicate. We're graded on our safety. Maybe it's time we create a system that grades brokers on the very same system we're accountable for. Imagine a database. I'm going to coin a phrase. Believe me, if you're still with me, please stick around. Don't leave. A trucker's ledger of integrity. New phrase, right? Built right here through Unity, through this channel, where drivers can share not only truth, but rumor. Truth, not rumor. Where good brokers get recognized for actually leaving out those people that have questionable safety records. And the bad ones get put on notice. Look, straighten out your house. Do things right. Then come back and talk to us. This isn't just about law. It's about leadership. If we keep waiting, if we keep standing by and we do nothing, if we say nothing, things are going to get worse. But if we fix this system, that'll make a difference. That is our part to making trucking great again. So here's my challenge to every one of you. Let's make them, meaning brokers, officials, the government, those people, let's make them answer to this call of compliance. Let's pay close attention to this Supreme Court case. Let's build a brotherhood here of people that are paying attention to not only the case, but each load, every conversation, and everything that goes on from this point forward. Because I believe we can, together, make trucking great again. It's a simple ask. It's a simple request. It's not hard to do. I think we can manage it. At the end of the day, we owe it to ourselves to maintain a safe industry. It's really not that hard to do. I'm losing my backgrounds here. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's messing up, including me. So what say you guys? As we close out tonight, what thought comes to mind? Truth over contracts. What are your thoughts? Grumpy, what do you think?
Well, truth is the best way to anything.
If you're going to run a business, the best thing to do is to do it above board and be accountable.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a broker, stop hiring people with scores that are in the freaking toilet. Stop allowing people like Hope and Monique to be an issue. And if you're a carrier and you've got a problem, fix the problem, man. It ain't that hard. It's simple. It save you money if you do it. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I should say, like with the last company I was with, I was trying to help them out by make sure their equipment was worthy and stuff to where every driver that grabbed a hold of that trailer should have a good trailer by the time they grabbed a hold of it. And if they kept it that way, then the next person would have it.
Yep.
And it's repetitive. I mean, if you don't start with it with one person and keep it going, and that next person keep it going, it's just like a train. It'll crash and have a wreck sooner or later.
Yep. I mean, I've said a lot on this show, and thank you for that opinion, Grumpy. I appreciate that. But one thing I want perfectly clear, no matter what the Supreme Court decides, no matter what comes of this case and of those people watching this show, one thing is sure: you cannot build a future on our industry on the backs of people who keep cutting corners. It's pretty damn simple. If you do your job, if you're proud of the job you do, and you take seriously the safety behind it, you'll be better off. And I think you've proven, Fate, you'll make more money. So, what say you?
I don't know.
Did I stump you? I usually trigger you.
You didn't really stump me. I tend to focus on myself and what
Well,
I'm in
okay.
control of.
So in that respect,
You're
what are
asking
you?
me to follow a Supreme Court decision that, for a lack of a better term, I could care less about.
Well, if that Supreme
That
Court case makes you do things you're uncomfortable with, don't you think it makes it worth
I don't
following?
I don't do anything I'm uncomfortable with. It's my responsibility not to do things I'm uncomfortable with. I already
Okay.
do that. Why would I do things that I'm
How would
uncomfortable with?
and how would that action contribute or take away from what's being discussed in this Supreme Court case? Think about that for just a second.
I'm not saying it would take anything, add or take away anything. I don't
Do
my
you think
time
the mentality would either add or detract from it? That's the question I'm trying to
mentality
ask.
of what?
It's not my problem.
Mentality of
So
what?
why should I pay the mentality of it's not my problem, so why should I pay attention to it? Because that's
For
kind of in a
me,
sense what you're saying. Yeah. Because that's in a sense
it
what you're
wouldn't
saying.
change anything for me.
Really? For you?
No. For me it wouldn't change anything
If your
unless
lack of
I'm missing
concern,
something.
well, if your lack of concern more than doubles your insurance, that becomes a problem.
My insurance went down.
I know. I'm not
My
saying that.
insurance
But
didn't go up.
if it were reversed, then what would you think?
What are we taught? You want me to live in a world where my insurance hypothetically goes up when in reality and the thing that I care about, my business, my
No, no, no,
insurance
no.
went down? I'm not going to play
No,
that game.
we are going severely off track here. What I was trying to elicit is some things are worth paying attention to. It might not affect you directly, but
Forget
some of
his insurance. You're going to get his blood pressure up.
right?
Good one.
No, but
Jordan.
some of the things that happen out of said cases like this actually do affect us. It might not be right now, and it might not be
No, they don't
directly,
affect us. Think of
but
all the Supreme Court rulings that
Mhm,
not like just in trucking that
mhm.
have come over the years. Have they really affected what I do? I would say the biggest thing was adding that black box to my truck, right? And I remember when the
How is the
ELD
Supreme Court
was
in that?
put in place. No, I'm saying just legislation. I'm not saying Supreme Court. I'm just saying legislation, which
Well,
if the Supreme Court rules a certain way, it's going to create legislation, correct?
right,
Because then a
right,
law has to be instituted.
right.
So no real legislation or rule or mandate or anything like that has really, I mean, it's affected me,
Every time the
but
Supreme
I've had to
Court,
change
not
or
to cut you
adapt.
off, right? But every time the Supreme Court rules on something, it's not the ruling itself that becomes worrisome. It's the precedent that it sets. So just the fact that the precedent itself exists, that by its nature is what changes
But
what comes after.
what are you
That's
trying to
what
say? Right now, there's brokers that I could make an argument every brokerage is
Mhm.
running that carrier through some sort of system
Like highway or
because
whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
because
and
hold on, I'm
that's not
not
what I'm
done.
saying.
I'm
Okay,
not
okay,
done.
okay.
Because theft is so great in this industry that a
Right.
broker wants, and I'm not saying carriers don't skirt around this because they do. We're seeing that. But
Mhm.
I bet a lot of carriers by brokers are already vetted. It's not going to change anything. I mean,
So in that case, wouldn't it be a fair question to ask what's being missed? Because if carriers like
I think we're
HomeTrans
seeing
and
it.
Moni, well, there you go. So in one sense, what I'm saying makes sense because SCOTUS is going to
Never.
rule, a precedent is going to be set, and therefore something's going to change. Now, to that, I'm just going to simply back up and say we've covered a lot in past videos and on some of my live shows about that very thing. You know, what we're going to talk about is one thing today, but one thing we've talked about is the changes that we need to make to get people like that off the road. And
I'm not saying you're wrong in that. You're
no,
not wrong.
and
You asked me a question how it would affect me.
yeah,
It
and
wouldn't
I'm not
affect
hinting
me.
that. I'm not hinting that. I'm simply pointing to the comment down below. That specific comment I have covered in videos. I welcome you to check them out. And if stories come up that warrant that, I'll talk about those and entertain those. In the meantime, I will tell you that when it comes down to precedents set in courts, every precedent affects us. It affects what we do, how we do it. Maybe not directly a carrier, but a broker. And I say this, I say a lot of work needs to be done because we still have far too many brokers and far too many carriers that are letting things slip through the cracks. So I will be interested myself to see what happens. Not hinging on it, but I will be interested.
I don't see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make that statement.
Yeah.
Because I haven't worked with enough brokers to. Oh, you're cutting us off.
No, I'm not cutting you off. Continue talking. I mean, I'm not cutting us off. I'm just winding down the show because I think we've about covered it all. We have a large job ahead of us. You think brokers and carriers have it one way. I typically disagree, but not to the extent that I think.
Wait a minute.
It's going to
what do you
cripple the
mean by
industry.
that? What do you mean by that?
I mean that everybody involved, brokers and carriers, have a large responsibility to making sure that we do business and we keep our end of the bargain up. If we say we're safe, we prove we're safe. Hence Hope Trans. If we're a broker and we're hiring on carriers, we need to do more than just look at one platform and say, okay, they're a legitimate carrier.
Can a safe carrier kill somebody?
Anybody can.
Okay.
But you're more likely to do
What are
that
we
if
talking
you've got a
about then?
safety score that has 85 violations and you don't need to be here. That's what Hope Trans has. Yeah, that's what Hope Trans. So how did Hope Trans fall through the system? How did they get missed? How did we wind up here talking about this? That's
They
what
didn't
I'm
get
talking
missed.
about.
They just
From
changed
what
the
I
damn
said
numbers.
earlier, you don't. No, we have a government agency that's in control that doesn't do their job.
Exactly.
I said that in the beginning. So what
Yep.
does the Supreme Court have anything to do with an agency doing their job?
So you think what the Supreme Court is going to rule on is meaningless?
Absolutely. Aren't we seeing
Well,
that right now? Wait a minute,
So
wait a minute. Aren't we seeing that right now?
So the
Isn't there a law
responsibility rests with who then?
with the agency that is the overseeing committee, hence
There you go.
the FMCSA or DOTs of states?
Like I was saying earlier, it has to do with like, okay, even like with this way stations, as we go into each state, they should be the ones keeping an eye on stuff like that and enforcing it right there, because we go through those daily. Every trucker has to go by there. So
Lance,
I
I've
mean,
covered a lot of that.
that's where
I've covered a lot of
that would where I would say it needs to start.
Outlaw truckers don't have to go by way stations. We know how to get around them.
Yeah, but there,
Come on now.
you know, I mean, there are portable, that drive around in them nice little SUVs that eventually catch you.
We go like this when we see that.
There you go.
Wait a
That's the
minute,
way to leave
was
that
you
one.
behind me all that time?
That's the way to leave that one. Guys, as we close tonight, I want you to remember That's what it is. My technology and I are grouped. Winston Churchill once said, the truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there is. This is BossMan. Look, I'm coming to you from Truckin City Truth and Broadcasting Network. Do your part. Keep it rolling. We'll see you next time.